Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode. As we take a look at various countries which have attempted to build their nation in recent times, sometimes achieving success and sometimes coming to abrupt failures, let us take a look at the case of India. In its recent history of the last 74 years, India has been a unique story which most experts thought was not possible to happen. In spite of various flaws, the achievements by India is something that has baffled the world in various occasions. Let us take a look at a few of these impossible successes that have shaped India. India is today officially the largest democracy in the world. After World War II, other than India, no other developing country has been a continuous democracy for the past 70 years, except Costa Rica, which is a very small country. In 1947, at the end of British rule in India, only 12% of India could read and write. 60% of India was in abject poverty. More than 121 different languages were spoken in India as mother tongue. There were huge divides of religion, ethnicity, and caste system. According to any political scientist, these three factors are considered completely unfit for a democratic model. That is, people who are mostly illiterate, people who are largely poor, and people who do not speak the same language. On top of that, India had one of the largest populations in the world. It was thought that Indians could not reason as individuals because caste and religion dominated them so much. Before independence, India had religion based constituencies where only certain religions people could vote in certain constituencies. Most experts advise that giving equal voting rights to all citizens in India is a foolish proposition. However, India's early leaders believed that each citizen, however deprived, would know their own interests as much as the privileged did. After independence, group identities and religion based elections were abolished. In the next few decades, a historical exception was created. India had started with the greatest number of refugees in the history of the world. The very beginning was marked with the deadliest of religious riots. Yet, India managed to heal, and its democracy was kept intact. It did not succumb to the temptations of an authoritarian rule or an army rule. It would be too elaborate to cover all the key reasons. However, one of the important factors was that India was one of the few post colonial countries which adopted religious neutrality. India did not provide any formal role of religion in public affairs. The constitution enforced equality for all religions. Another factor was a distribution of power into states so that ethnicities of states were respected and a monolithic structure was not imposed. In 1981, Robert Dahl, the most influential figure in democratic studies, called India an exceptional case of modern times to the entire democratic theory. Social scientists across the world over the past 70 years have agreed that India has been one of the most improbable and flourishing cases of democracy. At the time of independence, India's literacy rate was just 12%. Today, India's literacy rate is 74%. It is a good increase, but it is not exceptional. However, there is an aspect of Indian education which is exceptional. It is the high quality of higher education at a negligible price spread across the country. After independence, a plan was set up so that higher education was not just for the elite. Science and technology was given a major importance. India's huge IT boom, in which people from extremely poor families could participate and come out of poverty, was largely due to this cheap and high quality education system. The fact that India is now approaching a $3 trillion economy A large part of that credit goes to this education system. If we look at the data from American State Department, the US awards 84% of highly skilled visas to India and China. But India gets 5 times more highly skilled visas than China. 71% of highly skilled visas are awarded to just India. Let's take a look at the kind of cost of higher education in India. Delhi University, which was ranked 400 in the world in 2014, the total cost of completing a 2 years master's degree in science is just 176 US dollars. Calcutta University, another university in eastern India, is ranked 600 in the world. The total cost for gaining a 2 years master's degree in science in 2021 is only 60 US dollars. Today, India's higher education system is third largest in the world after US and China. People from neighboring countries and across the world have also been able to get educated because India provides a high quality education hub at such a cheap rate. At the time of independence, India was immersed in a hopeless state of poverty with sharp social differences. Most experts had stated that India could never survive as a nation with this level of poverty. In 1700 AD, India's share of world income was 22.6%. In 1952, India's share of world income was just 3.8%. The GDP growth rate in 1952 was minus 1.1%. In 1991, India's GDP growth rate was just 1.06%. In this year, India's foreign exchange reserves had diminished to such an extent that there was just enough money to buy 3 weeks of essential imports. At this time, a major economic reform was done in India, also called as India's economic liberalization. As we all know, a miracle happened. India's growth rate reached nearly 9% in 1999. By 2007, India's GDP crossed $1 trillion. In 2014, India crossed $2 trillion. Today, India's GDP is nearly $3 trillion and has overtaken UK and France. However, GDP alone does not determine actual development of a country. Actual development of a country is determined by the living conditions of people in that country. After 1991, for the next 10 years, poverty in India was reduced, but not enormously. It was only in the 2000s, after a few other policies were implemented, that maximum number of people were lifted out of poverty. Between 2006 and 2016, India lifted a record 271 million people out of poverty. This number was the second largest number of people in the world brought out of poverty after China. It is a number which is much more than the entire population of Russia. President Barack Obama praised this in his various speeches.
And here in India, this dynamism has resulted in a stunning achievement. You've lifted countless millions from poverty and built one of the world's largest middle classes.
There were many factors that made it possible, but one of the major policies that contributed was NREGA. It was a right to work guaranteed for all poor adults in rural India with a fair minimum wage. It was India's first employment guarantee scheme. It also gives priority to women's participation in workforce. It brought a lot of people in villages out of poverty. India still has a long way to go to lift the rest of the 22% of its citizens out of poverty. But what is most praiseworthy is that India made this miraculous progress without putting any autocratic force or any undue pressure on its people. This astonished the world and made everyone try to learn from the India model. India's public healthcare system for all is not at all satisfactory. However, there are certain aspects in it which are exceptional. One is India's ability for vaccine rollouts for decades and eradicating diseases. Secondly, India is the third largest producer of medicines and drugs at a very affordable price. India is known as the pharmacy to the developing world. Over the decades, India has successfully eradicated diseases not just within the country, but in Africa and many other poor countries. India's vaccination rollouts have officially eradicated around 5 infectious diseases. When the COVID outbreak happened, WHO Executive Director said that vaccination rollouts can be learned from India, since India had led the way in showing a challenging eradication of smallpox and polio in such a vast and populated country.
India led the world in eradicating two silent killers, or eliminating them in the country. Smallpox, one of the greatest successes of mankind, a virus that killed more people on this planet than all the wars put together. Also eliminated polio, another silent killer, and did a tremendous job on surveillance and finding cases and vaccinating.
After independence, India had reported the highest number of cases of smallpox. Various vaccination methods were implemented, but they had all failed in such a vast and populated country. In 1974, the smallpox epidemic in India was considered one of the worst epidemics of the 20th century. Nearly 200,000 people died. At this point, the government threw its full weight behind it. Within just 1 year, smallpox was eradicated from India forever. In 1975 May, the last case of smallpox was found in India. Various reports across the world documented how within that 1 year, a massive network of health workers visited every single household of India's 100 million households for surveillance and vaccination. The government also announced a cash award of 100 rupees to public for reporting cases. This had also worked wonders in getting targeted vaccination done. India had also eradicated polio through a vast network of door to door vaccination and huge public awareness. In 2014, India was declared polio free. In 2001, India's drug making company Cipla played a huge role in stopping AIDS in Africa by providing medicines at negligible prices compared to the medicines from other countries. India's Serum Institute produces more than 1.5 billion vaccines every year at very affordable prices to fight the deadliest of diseases in poorer countries. Serum developed a very cheap meningitis vaccine which they distributed across Africa. Over 152 million people received the vaccine by the end of 2013. The epidemic could be stopped in more than 26 countries. It is estimated that about 65% of the children in the world receive at least one vaccine manufactured by Serum. India is the third largest producer of medicines in the world today, but its main contribution is the cheap price at which they make it available. This is the main reason millions of lives in poorer countries and in the developing world get saved today. There are numerous other examples where India has baffled the world with limited resources and unexpected progress. Most of that cannot be covered in just one episode. India's progress has benefited not just India, but it has been used in helping various poorer countries in the region. India's innovative policies have been a model for first world countries since progress was brought under tremendous crisis situations without an authoritarian rule and at the same time while dealing with vastly diverse groups of people. The basis of India's continued peace is that from the very beginning, A framework of unbiasedness towards all religion and ethnicities was made a rule of law. Also, from the very beginning, certain strong institutions were built which were independent of a ruling party. These institutions were in education, in the judiciary, in scientific research, and in many other crucial areas. As Noam Chomsky said in one of his recent interviews, sometimes countries and regions which look hopeless make progress that are beyond belief and beyond any logical theories. There are also regions that are perfectly stable and progressing, where a sudden turn of events right in front of everyone's eyes can create a completely unfortunate future for its citizens very quickly. The purpose of this episode is not to prove that India or any country is superior to other countries. It is to showcase things that help us see what factors bring progress. It is important to celebrate those successes so that we learn from them for future directions. Do let me know what you thought of this episode with your comments. If you like it, please do share and please do subscribe to my channel. See you in the next episode.